Okay, hey guys, this is Professor Graf, and I'm creating this short video to answer some questions that arose from my online class in research methods. I'm going to share this video with both my online and on-campus classes, but I thought I would answer a couple questions here in about 3 minutes that had come up in an online discussion board, and it gives me a chance to comment on just a few things at some greater length. So 4 questions and 4 slides. This is a very interesting question that someone posed online. Is the inherent value of research more important than the ability to present it effectively? Okay, so the easy, quick answer is I don't know. But what they're raising here, I think, is a very interesting idea. And it is recognizing that sometimes when we see research, its power is in its demonstration ability, or its power is in its compelling nature, and not as a piece of research. In other words, sometimes there's research that makes it into the news, it's compelling and interesting, and it has a real impact. But when we look closer, we realize that as a piece of research, it's not all that good, not all that clear. I think the Stanley Milgram experiments are an example of that. I think the Stanford Prison Project are examples of that. Now, my online class students have already encountered those ideas, and my offline students have not, but will down the road. But you might find research that gets a lot of notoriety, it gets a lot of attention, and that can sometimes be a good thing. It can sometimes be quite worthwhile and interesting. But it might also be that as a piece of research, judged on its merits alone as research, it is lacking. And so those two things can sometimes be quite different. One other quick point on this: the best research is programmatic, and that is health research, that is social science research, that is the hard sciences. That is, it's multiple research studies piling up over years that then lead us to broader conclusions. Making assumptions or beliefs about one particular piece of research that shows something, it can be risky. Okay, so question 2 here. Is the theory typically stated in one key sentence or a collection of statements? Usually theories are elaborated on at length over many paragraphs or even books. Some of the theories we talk about in class are connecting two concepts together. That's a very basic sort of theory. Helps us think theoretically. But most theories are long elaborations at great length. So, yeah. This is another good question. And basically, the researcher, the student, is asking here, our choice of methods should not be driven by personal preference. You are correct. In a perfect world, we choose which research method to use based on the research question, which method is most apt and which is most appropriate. That's the way it should be done. But understand that in the real world, it often is not, for a lot of reasons, and sometimes perfectly good reasons. Look, sometimes we cannot afford to pay for the research method that's most appropriate. Okay? Sometimes we're not trained well in one research method, and we just prefer a particular method. And there are scholars out there who master a particular research method and use that method as the hammer to pound on the world for all of their careers, even when it's woefully inappropriate. But that's just a personal vagary of why people use particular methods. Understand also that when you go out into the working world, you will work for people who value particular kinds of data, particular kinds of evidence. They just buy and accept focus group evidence, for example, and so they're gonna look to you to give them focus group data to answer the questions they pose. And that's just understanding who we work for, whether it's our boss or our client, and what sort of data they prefer, or what sort of data is going to be most compelling before them. Not necessarily what kind of data is the proper data from the proper method for the questions they've posed. This is just doing our work in the real world. So, good question. And this is the last question. What's the best way to demonstrate knowledge and research on a resume or in a portfolio of work? We could ask this about any of the skills we develop, and it's important, it's a very practical question. Be thinking along these lines. I'll say that to you first. And you might have in your catalog more evidence of your skill sets than you realize. Writing is often a good example. And when asked, students can provide examples of writing, awards they've won, things they've published that demonstrate their skill set in writing. And having a strong skill set in writing will take you a long way. For research, you're going to have a degree that has research requirements. You can state in your resume that you've taken research classes. You might have had taken undergraduate research classes. You can state with some confidence those methods that you feel you have some ability in. And coming out of this class, in particular focus groups and particular surveys, that you have an understanding of question wording, an understanding of survey data, of how to do it, and you're prepared to begin to use those skills. So sometimes for me, I say to students, you just need to have the confidence to assert this is an area in which you want to work, and this is a body of expertise that you want to claim. There are other classes to take, there are conferences to go to. I think that you can illustrate your research expertise in some of your classes, especially your capstone. And that when you go into the working world, you need to look for these opportunities to move in this particular area. But you certainly can think of this degree as being a research degree and frame it as such. And that will help you move into the areas of research if that's the direction you want to go in your career. And I've had students who have done so successfully. Okay, I think I said this was going to be a 3-minute video. It's a 6-minute video. For me, that's pretty brief. Thanks, I hope you find this helpful, and I will see you online or in class. Thanks.